job of being able to communicate to our membership what that pathway looks like and how you can get your athletes moving and progressing through that pathway. Then she'll do some technique, and then she's got some videos for us at the end. So, Jess, Medina, Bunker, thank you.
Sweet, thank you. Awesome, you guys. Thanks for having me. I know a lot of the faces and a lot of you I don't. So just a little background of who I am. I will start as an athlete. I was on our senior national team for 6 years, a resident at the Olympic Training Center. Terry Steiner was my coach, now boss. And I started off in high school later on my junior year. I'm from California. So back then, high school sanctioning was not a thing, even though we had tons and tons of girls wrestling. So that happened later. I graduated, went to college at University of the Cumberlands. At the time, it was one of 6 programs. So for me, not a lot of options, but decided to take a leap, jump into college wrestling. And then from there, I was a 3-time finalist, 2-time champ for University of the Cumberlands. And then that's when I decided to move on to senior wrestling, moving to the Olympic Training Center. So live there. And then after that, spent some time at some RTCs. So I somehow ended up in West Virginia for a couple years, which, Lauren, you visited me while I was there, actually for like a season. And then ended my career at ASU at that RTC. And so really like a big, for me, hodgepodge of women's wrestling and all things wrestling, from high school to RTC to now coaching with the national team staff. So as of April 1st, been in this position for 6 years. So it's flown by, been pretty awesome. And so just wanted to start with showing you some resources we put out. When I first started, there was such a great base for the program. And with girls and women's wrestling growing so much, there are so many opportunities. Things are always changing. It's almost hard to stay updated. So there's a lot of organizations working to help make it less confusing, because I know at times it can be. So for us, what I wanted to show is we've really worked on developing our women's wrestling tab. And so I'll just pull up my computer. Wonderful. So, JK, didn't like that, did it? Here, we'll do that, and then we'll make it work again. Okay, cool. So if you guys go to themat.com, and I will start from the beginning, and it may look a little different on your phones. All the questions that we get, oh, JK. Oh, no, I don't have internet. Yeah, please. Well, cool. Capital Ruby River 23. Sorry, guys. It was already up, so. Okay, great. So just to take you to the mat, because it's so much information, you're going to go to Team USA. And honestly, you can find this women's freestyle tab a lot of different ways on the site, on your phone or on the computer. If you head to women's wrestling, freestyle wrestling, this is like the hub. We've been putting all our information here so that hopefully, if you have a question, we're able to send you right to the website. So this Pathways has been really awesome for us. If you're U15 all the way to Olympic, it tells you how to make a team. If you're starting out, find a club, what events we recommend you go to, how you make your national teams, how you qualify for camps, all the things are on here. And we also link the UWW events and their information. So really awesome spot for you guys to check. And I send this out all the time. It's a live document, so we try to keep it as updated as possible. The next piece is our national team schedule. So I get a lot of questions. We get a lot of questions. What's happening? U15 to senior. So all things happening. U15 to senior are here. Our camps, our competitions. And then at the bottom, this is a really important piece. How do you qualify for these camps? Again, development and senior. And this really lays out how you can get into those camps. A new piece that we have added on here is again, it's a awesome thing that women's wrestling has grown. We're able to have our national team camps for every age group, and now it's criteria mainly for our top 3, sometimes extended to our All-Americans. And so the next thing was, hey, what are some other opportunities we can get our high school girls who maybe are up and coming, who maybe don't fit in the criteria? How can we get them freestyle training? So we are actually kicking off this season our 2025 regional development camps. This one is really exciting because one, a big goal for this quad, especially in my role, was to figure out how do we get more girls freestyle opportunities, our U15 and our high school girls, if they don't qualify to come to our camps. So as you can see, Cheryl, there you go. Yeah, Cheryl will be helping host our Southeast region. And so if your girls want to sign up for any of these camps, these are what's happening. The other really cool layer is all the clinicians will come from our national team or world team or past medalist or national team in the past 3 years. So you're going to get an athlete clinician or a coach clinician who falls in the women's freestyle roster, and they will be hosting one of these events. The other piece is there's some of you in here who are in the women's freestyle coaches pool. Again, it's gotten really competitive what coaches come to our national team camps. So this may be an opportunity to say, hey, I'm in this region or I'm close by. I'd love to come help volunteer. And so that's a way for also us to get our coaches opportunities with that. So all that being said, this is coming up. And then the last piece I will show you is going to be... The other question we get is, how do I become a resident at the OPTC? The other question, especially for me, is how do I become an EAP athlete? Our EAP is a high school senior or gap year athlete. They spend 1 year with us. And so all things OPTC are here, and how you qualify to be on campus, to be off campus with the meal card, or to have facility use access. And so we've laid out some criteria for that, okay? And then our contacts are all there, Coach Steiner, Coach Hildebrandt, and myself, if you guys have questions. So I just wanted to throw that at you guys. If you forget all things, just go to the mat and find women's wrestling. And really, you probably know someone who has asked you, a parent, a coach, an athlete, send them to the site. They can always reach out to with questions. So that's that. Any questions or things from here? Cool. So we will pause, come back to the computer later, and we'll leave it there. We'll move on to mat things. So Maya, thank you. So I want to kind of cut this up into segments. We're going to go, sorry guys, let me stand over here. Okay. So we're going to kind of cut things up into 3 segments. This session's a little bit more strategical, tactical, and so the 3 situations I see the most is, especially like this weekend, we get all our age group national team set, some of them returners, some of them brand new, right, U15 to U23, and we bring the teams together. And every year I've kind of found myself working along these 3 themes because, one, I'm not the coach working with them day in and day out. So my thoughts were, what is the biggest impact we can make over the summer leading into our championships? So 3 areas I've really kind of narrowed down that we hit with our teams are positioning. So our first contact and closing the gap. And 2, our zone offense, and then standing. And then 3, our end of the match strategy. That one has been so huge. And I have a few situations we're going to look at. But those are really 3 big ones, especially when we're getting ready for a world championship, that we really get tested in. And so we're going to start just very simply with our positioning, maybe some drills. And these things maybe not so much, obviously things you may have seen, but it happens so much, especially when we're talking about international competition, especially when we're talking about different styles of wrestling. So I'm going to steal Maya. Okay, first thing, and I'm sure all you coaches can agree, and have seen this. This is a big one, and we've been working a lot with our EAP and our residents with our first contact. So we slap hands and we're reaching, and that is a big one for us. So we've talked about, hey, okay, match, we shake hands, okay, our hands are staying low, okay, and we're either attacking from this bicep down. So when I'm here, right off the whistle, okay, we get ourselves in trouble, we get into ties, yep, especially foreign athletes, 2-on-1s, okay, we get in positions we don't want to be in. So again, starting nice and low. So climbing wrist, whether it's 2-on-1 wrist, okay, whether it's this V block. If I want to make contact, okay, I'm maybe coming in at the elbows, maybe one shoulder, one elbow, keeping my position with my head. We'll get into more ties. But again, we talk about that first contact, especially if we went out of bounds, the whistle's blown, we're back in that first contact. I see this so much. We get into these positions, and then we get caught in these ear-to-ear positions. So first and foremost, talking about that first contact with your athletes. Let's start low, okay? Second, a lot of reaching is happening, okay? Or coming in and not having our hands ready and we're getting snapped, okay? And our hips aren't following our body. So talking a lot with your athlete, moving as one. Our body's moving as one, right? I'm not just using my hands. And one thing I would notice is American athletes, we love to shoot, but we don't like to hand fight. And so a big one is we want to stay distant, and we never end up closing that gap. We stay really neutral. So again, having that conversation about, do I want a cross wrist? Do I want a double wrist? Do I want a collar and wrist? Okay, and making sure, what am I doing with this, right? I'm not just placing my hands, but I'm getting my tie, my head position, and my feet are moving. My feet are stocking, my hips are under me, I'm staying in good position. So that's where I would start, really simple. And then next, let's talk about controlling center. So this is a big one too. And I would say at World Championships, we've left a lot of points on the table because we'll get our opponent and we'll get them in the zone, and then we get nervous or afraid and we let them circle back in, and we'll either circle ourselves back towards the zone, or I've seen athletes get in position, get close to scoring in the zone, and then they'll back up and just come back to center. So controlling center, keeping our butt towards the middle of the mat, okay? And just stocking, staying low. We're making contact. We're controlling center. I'm moving my feet laterally. I'm keeping head position. I'm engaging the ties, okay? And I'm gonna cut them off. So now, let's say I don't wanna even be in the tie. I can stock, okay? As I'm stocking, I'm putting them on their heels and I'm cutting these angles off, okay? A lot of the times we're in here, okay? My opponent starts moving. We end up just mirroring. Go ahead, just keep moving. We're mirroring, we start chasing, okay? Instead, working on this angle, cutting them off, like 11 and 2 o'clock. And again, knowing where the zone is at. So I'm controlling center, right? Whether I have a tie or not, you can start them off just in a neutral stance with our hands ready to down block. So cutting them off, okay? As I'm doing that, I have forward pressure. I'm not just mirroring. Now I'm cutting her off. Go ahead. Cutting her space off. So really training athletes to be patient, to stay in their stance, okay? Whether I have a tie or not, again, it's a lot of footwork and stance work. So I would say very basic, but tough to do, especially in a match situation. Awesome. Okay, next is a big one too. How many of your athletes or have been in situations where we have an athlete and they're wrestling their opponent and they're evasive, right? And I'll say internationally for us, that would be Japan. A lot of foreign countries, but Japan's really quick movement. likes to wrestle open from space. And I would say that's very similar to some of our athletes. So talking about when we're wrestling our opponent, right? And we're trying to cut the gap. Yeah, and they're backing up. Maybe they're backpedaling, they're working the zone, okay? Now we kind of get, what I see with athletes is we're reaching, we're running, we're stalking, we're reaching with our lead leg arm, okay? So a great just drill is to start nice and slow. Have your athlete, your opponent, just start nice and slow. They're gonna back away, they're gonna circle laterally, they're just evading position, okay? And we go back to this cutting the angle off, paying attention. Where is my opponent going? Okay. Again, hands are low. I'm always ready to down block. Anyone who likes to wrestle from space, right? I don't want to walk into a situation. Exactly. So my hands are ready. I'm stalking. And again, I'm not trying to beat them. We may have someone who's quicker. Okay. But again, am I controlling center? This person, they may be moving across the mat. Go ahead. I'm still controlling center. My hands are ready. Okay, now I've just put her towards the zone. So those angles are really important. And again, when we have tight matches, and from the, again, World Championships, our Pan Ams, or even this weekend, our finals matches, these really small positions, they're gonna be tight. Not a lot of points thrown up in some circumstances, but holding center is going to put, right, the other opponent on the shot clock. So just thinking about those things. Okay. Okay, cool. So we've talked about our first contact, starting low to high. And that's something always from the corner. I'm like, hands low, working higher, right? That could be a good cue, but it reminds them to start with our wrist. If very basic, start with the wrist tie. So now, another thing I think all coaches to map out with your athletes, male or female, but really is, okay, what tie do we want and what are we doing with it? Are we being intentional? So if once I make that first contact, we tend to hang, or we tend not to know where to go from here, and we may just end up holding. We may end up in a tie we didn't really want to be in. Yeah, we may end up be there. So I think one way to engage your athlete is say, what tie do you want to be in? Okay, what are you comfortable in? What I see a lot is collar tie. So we should go collar tie with the wrist. Again, we're talking about that first contact, right? I'm grabbing a wrist. Inside tie, same thing. Inside tie, grabbing a wrist. Other than that, I would say, right, we can go to our underhooks. We can go wrist, climbing to our 2-on-1s. Okay, so mapping out a plan, and I think we'll cover this next, is once we get that tie, what is it we want to do with it? Do we want to score? Do we want to move to our next tie? Do we want to pressure? Do we want to create an angle? And I think that's where I see a lot of passiveness of just making contact, and then it gets us in trouble where, hey, okay, good, I've got a wrist, but I don't know where to go from here. Or this athlete reacts. Okay, hands down, stalking. Let me try again. Here, I want to get to my 2-on-1 on this side. Okay, they react. Paying attention in that tie and being a student to say, okay, how does my opponent react to that? Are they backing up? Are they clearing? Can I use it to attack in the zone? Can I use it to attack the other side? So once we get into kind of establishing our first contact, starting low to high, controlling center, stalking in our stance, being ready to down block, now we can talk about angles. So this is from, I would say, age group all the way to senior. I see this a ton. Very neutral position with our younger age groups. This happens a lot, ear to ear contact. Okay, you grab a tie. Very, very much neutral, straight on positioning. And so not a lot of activity, not a lot of action. And what we constantly preach is, hey, we need to get to our angles. So a couple drills kind of just worked with our EAP athletes just to get their feet moving was, okay, we need to start them with a partner who's just going to give them maybe 50%. So starting off just, yep, a little bit. It doesn't have to be low in the stance, but we're going to start with no hands because, again, our athletes tend to say, hey, let's move and get to an angle. They want to reach. They want to keep their hips away. They don't want to engage. So first I start off with our hands down and ready in down block position, starting head to head. And then my partner's just going to give me a little fill. She's going to let me be successful, but I'm going to circle, okay? And when I circle, I want to make sure my forehead is right here in the neck. Okay, I'm looking to get this angle. As soon as I get this angle, she starts to turn the other way, okay? And then I'll come back. And again, hips are following. I don't want to be chasing. I'm going to get snapped. So really teaching your athletes to move laterally and getting our feet underneath us. So again, one way, really emphasizing getting this position, beating this so we can get the reaction to attack the other side. So once athletes start feeling comfortable, okay, without using our hands, we're moving our feet. And that's really what I've had to establish is some reason when we start throwing in the hands, we don't move our feet as much. If I don't have hands, I want my head position. I'm fighting in for head position. I'm pressuring and I'm making her turn. Go ahead. Now I'm fighting opposite side. And now I'm really creating angles just with my head position, just stalking, no ties yet. To build off of that, okay, now we can add, again, really slow this drill down. Have your partner give them 50%, let them be successful. So now I'm gonna attack one side, okay, have them even pause. What's available? Is there a straight on attack? Okay, or here, I get her to turn, step in, no hands yet, but now I'm forcing, right? I've got to force my head position across the body, stay in my stance. Again, I'm making her react. If I go my single side, okay, if I attack this side, probably gonna get to my double, okay, or boom, my high crotch. She may not give me any of those things. I've got to take what's there. Okay, so that could be I use it as a warm-up drill now because sometimes we won't do a lot of lateral drills in the season. We'll start off at the beginning and do a lot of footwork. Then once I notice my athletes are kind of like head-to-head a lot, or we've kind of lost those angles, we'll just hit this for a warm-up. And then we kind of refresh and get back to those really lateral drills. So now kind of putting everything together, let's add the ties. And again, we want to get into those ties. A lot of time our athlete, keeping our hands back, or they're trying, we make a contact, and then our opponent's getting us in our ties, and we're backing out a lot. And this is a huge, huge piece. I think it's really the level up in our athletes' abilities, where if you know how to hand fight, you're most likely going to be an All-American. If you know how to hand fight in college, same. You're most likely going to be, I would say, above, at least over half of, especially in girls wrestling, at least above half of your weight class. So I would say, again, starting off, we can use that drill from the beginning. Okay, first contact, starting low to high. Okay, where do we want to be? Are we looking for drags? Okay, maybe that's both sides. Are we looking for our collar, our wrist tie? Maybe we want snaps. Are we looking to go to our 2-on-1s? Okay, are we looking for our underhooks? Okay, and now to add to the drill, Okay, we've got our ties, we're looking for our angles. We're gonna attack one side, and then our opponent or our drill partner is just gonna give us a reaction to the other side. So now we're teaching our athlete how to go tie to tie from each side. So hey, I'm a righty. I prefer my underhook on this right-hand side. I get to my underhook, she's gonna react. What else is here? Good, she starts to turn away. She starts to turn. And this is a great way to just slow down and let your athlete feel what's there. And maybe as they're initially starting, it may be just as simple as, hey, we're just gonna go drags. They turn, right? Drag. They turn, drag. Now as we start to evolve our ties and our choices, hey, I see a lot of underhook to 2-on-1. A lot of athletes will get their underhook on one side. They know they're gonna reach. They'll climb this 2-on-1. And that was, right, not to get to the underhook, it was to get to this 2-on-1. So again, having our athletes thinking about moving laterally, moving side to side, and most of the time it comes from, we need a plan. What do they actually like to be in? Because otherwise, with no plan, this is what I see all the time. We're reaching, we're looking for a collar tie, we're getting snapped, okay? Instead of our first, now we have a plan. Slap hands, first contact, start low. Great, I wanna work to my 2-on-1. I'm looking for the angle. She's gonna peel. Now I can snap. She may peel. Now I may attack the other side. And again, having your partner, I think is big. Giving you that, maybe over exaggerating, right? Give them that other side. And then as you start to see, right? Now we're gonna get used to, I'm attacking one side. Maybe now my partner's just squaring up. Maybe they're not giving me a whole lot, right? And now we can, again, attack the legs, work to this tie, work to this tie, work to my underhook. Perfect. So any questions or comments or things you guys kind of see within your rooms?
What's the benefit of going wrist as opposed to hand control? I've always been taught securing hand control is a lot more secure than the wrist because the wrist can rotate a lot.
Yeah, I think a big advantage with going wrist is our drags. There's just so many things, right? Or even if it's here, whether we're faking, attacking one side, coming back to that drag series. Yeah, and the other thing is, as long as we are getting those 4 fingers, if we're not, it could get a little messy and distracting. So again, and right, wrist control, climbing to one side to that 2-on-1. It seems a little bit better of like a conduit to the next tie. So.
I think there's also just like it's a little stopper right here. It's almost like a built-in handle. So I think for pulling, it's like a lot better.
Yeah, even that's a perfect point. Just motions, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more with end to match strategies. But if, let's say, right, I can just get an angle here. I can control center here. Now I'm getting angles and getting that pull. So yeah, if I would say just a big takeaway is, one, actually ask your athlete, like, what do you like on what side? Do you want an underhook? Do you want a 2-on-1? Do you want a wrist tie, inside tie? And okay, now let's start to figure out how that flows from one side to the other, how we can start to open those up. All right. And the last piece of that is, let's say we're maybe not looking for an angle. Maybe we want pressure. And again, it's all about being intentional with our tie. So again, all starting from the beginning, slap hands, okay, starting low. We can go V-block. It doesn't always have to be that wrist, but that V-block, even pushing that in, she wants to react. She doesn't want that arm there. Just kind of seeing what's here, okay, and adding pressure. So I think that's such a big piece that we miss out on, is I maybe don't have to get to a tie or have to get my attack right off the bat. Our wrestlers are super impatient And if we're wrestling a foreign athlete, they know we're coming. They know American style is execute, execute. Just wait till they make a mistake. Wait till they get tired. So it really is a patience game. And I've had to really teach some of our athletes, hey, your offense is great, but there's a time where we need to put pressure, create angles, move our opponent. Our attack will open up. So again, last piece, making that contact. Again, I can be at the bicep. I can push in here, right at that elbow crease, controlling that wrist. Then I can work, but in the meantime, I'm pressuring. I'm finding head position, and then teaching our athletes, hey, what do you feel? As soon as I feel her push back in, can I get an angle, right? So again, what am I doing? Am I pressuring? Am I grabbing, looking for an angle? Or am I waiting for her, right? I'm putting her in the zone. I know she's gonna react. I may down block away, but a big piece, right, is not just laying our hands on top. And that's what I generally see is we slap hands, wrestle, and this happens a lot with our lead leg hand. Okay, we're ear to ear, and we just kind of hang out here and hope something happens. So again, controlling that bicep down, head position, and just feeling comfortable pressuring someone in our stance. So.
You touch a little bit on, I agree 100%, but because most of the opponents are going to immediately start hanging on the head.
Yep. Yeah, so one thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. The other thing is just, a little drill adding in, because now we were starting to come in and attack our opponent, right? And now our opponent's uncomfortable. What are they going to do? Yeah, they're going to call a tie. So we talked about shrugging the neck. We talked about protecting short neck, right? As soon as I maybe relaxed, okay, now I'm going to shorten that neck and I'm going to close the gap. So if I come in right here, I'm going to get snapped. So again, that re-emphasis of bringing our hips back under us, because that's what happens, right? We get pulled, we're getting pulled in that collar. My hips are out of position. Okay, so I've got to close this gap, shrug my neck, bring my hips back under me. Now there's nowhere to snap. So that's a very, very first thing that was happening is now we're making contact. And so our opponent's just going to want to grab, snap us down. So getting that first reaction of now I need to close that gap, right? When I'm getting snapped, there's a gap. So now, again, shrugging. You may even start without the hands and just have their feet catch up under their hips. And again, I'm finding head position. If I can get to this angle, great. Otherwise, somewhere in the collarbone, she can't snap me, right? My forehead's in that collar. So you may have them come in. Again, these can be warm-up drills. Okay, she starts to pull. As soon as I feel that pull, coming back up, finding that angle. Same thing, working both sides. Okay, doing the work with my feet and not reaching with my hands. That's a big one. So I would start off there. Does that answer at least preliminary? Yeah. Yep, it was happening. We're getting front head locked. So, yeah. Sweet. All right. We are going to pretend this is a zone line. Okay. So, talking about zone offense specifically, there's a ton, right? Offense, defense, tactics, grounded, standing. One really low-hanging fruit for me, at least, is standing zone offense. So anytime we have our athletes coming in, we talk about we got to know who we're wrestling. So I would say for us, the stickiest ties and the people who throw and are really aggressive in the hand fight for us are going to be India, Ukraine, Russia, a lot of European countries who do a lot more Greco are mixed with their Greco programs. And so our ladies maybe do really well in their underhooks, their over-unders, their double-unders. And then we go overseas and not as successful, I would say. So that is one area I would say is really testing your athletes in their ties, especially those upper body ties. I think they're great. I think we got to continue to develop that. Where I see us lose a lot of points or get talked into a position we don't want to be is in the zone and against countries who feel really comfortable just throwing the sink at us, or feel comfortable in an overhook, or right, double overs, any of those positions. So I want to talk about tie selection. So my tie selection and how it changes once I get to the zone. So if I want a 2-on-1 and I'm in the center of the mat, we'll call this the center, and this tape the zone, or the out of bounds. We'll say that further here. Sorry, people. Okay, I may be attacking this pressuring, but as soon as I start to cross into the zone, we have to square up. Because if I keep pushing here, she's going to circle back in. She may counter me here. Yep, exactly. So again, 2-on-1, we just talked about, hey, I like 2-on-1 on this side. Okay, now I'm getting close to the zone. So now my tactic has to change. I know she's going to try to probably, right, circle the direction that's open. So I need to square off. And I'm going to get my chest squared. I'm going to drop my level, okay? And I may just pressure. My steps are short, choppy. My hips are under me. Big difference in this. Okay, so those situations, I think we can avoid giving up a step out, especially those 1-point matches or throws. So again, 2-on-1, I may be pressuring, I may be looking for, right, my shovel, she comes up, okay, I'm here. I have to mentally, right, switch off. I just went from pressuring at this angle, I'm perpendicular to her, okay, there's a big hole here, I gotta cut that off. I want this zone point, I wanna get this one, right, get a step out at the least, but again, a really easy change off. Next, underhook. This one's really big. And I would say all age groups up to our senior athletes. We get into our underhooks. And again, we're pressuring, always getting that wrist control, winning this hand fight here. Okay, and we're deep, or we're in the seep out. Okay, we gotta shorten, right? I'm in the center. I got my underhook, or I'm pressuring. Okay, now I'm in the zone. I've got to shorten, not on the lat, this rib pry. Okay, I don't love seep out. I don't really love when our people reach for the seep out, but it happens. We're here. This is probably when it happens the most, right? We're like, we're so close. Yep. So and that's the reaction. So we need to teach our athletes, getting close. Now I'm pushing on this hip bone. I'm dropping. Okay, now I can attack with that opposite hand. But what we don't want to do is give someone a deep lever. So either side. Again, I may be pushing, pulling. Okay, I find myself in the zone. This rib pry here, hiding this elbow. And you get your athletes, get this person to just test it. Pull this overhook. This person has nothing to lose. They're going to jack this up. So even not being afraid to be here, we're going to get here sometimes. Okay, have your opponent, your drill partner, get that overhook. And then we don't need to panic here. We need to drop. Okay. And then last, I would say, where we don't want to be, absolutely not. We're just not, I would say majority of our top athletes, we're not the best in the world here. That's just the honest truth. So I always tell our athletes, again, let's pummel back in. Let's get short elbows. Let's pry those ribs. But I don't want to be in here. I'm going to talk to this. This is not where I want to be with people who are really good here. So again, I may drop. I don't have to completely abandon the position, but I'm going to shorten everything. I'm going to change my level. I'm going to drop my shoulder. My hand is on this hip, and now I'm pressuring. Okay. So those are 3 areas where I see us get a lot. We end up giving points. We did all the work. We got to our ties. And then we forget all about the zone, and everyone panics in the zone. And so one person has nothing to lose, right? They're going out of bounds. The other person needs to have that patience and discipline to adjust those ties. So those are really the big 3 ones that I see. I don't know if there's any others out there. Okay. Hello. Who? No.
Do you have any drills to reinforce the skill of situational awareness of where you are on the mat while you're on like defending within these positions? Like, especially if you're on one mat, like everyone's all spread out. How do you create that?
Yeah, you're just like, honestly, if I had this mat, I would have just taped off an area. I think that's a big thing too, that I actually experienced is depending like where you train or different clubs and mat space, we didn't always use the circle. And for freestyle, again, for freestyle, it's so big. Your points can be scored there or lost there. So I would just say making a line and then slowing it down. Then you're gonna have to speed it up because again, most of this is mental and emotional. You're like, I'm so close to scoring. And this person, right, has a different alarm going off. And so I think one comes back to, okay, when you're in the zone, do you want to be in this tie? Because I see so many athletes like, I was in an underhook, but I don't actually want an underhook. So why were you in the underhook in the zone? So I think start really slow and develop that plan and then start to work slowly, okay, and then increase to match pace. And then when you have your match simulations, those need to be where they happen, right? Where we've got the nerves and we're actually putting ourselves in those positions. You may put athletes, right, zone situations live. But I think more of it is mental and just knowing like, do I want to be an over-under? No, then why was I there? Because it's easy for that other person to talk us into it if we're not really intentional.
We have a lot of space in our room, so we're able to tell you, okay, go, you start in the zone, right? And then we can get enough circles that we can make everybody point away from each other instead of being pushing into each other. But if we had this space, it might be a good time to do half on, half off, right? Because you do have to have that space to work and not that's it, you know?
My question is in reference to the coaching side, specifically because of Greco's chest-to-chest points of emphasis this season. How are you coaching your kids to flee the hold, not flee in the hold, which is in that over-under position, get to somewhere we're comfortable and we're safe without getting those calls?
From the offensive points?
We're pushing them in the zone. They start to, get ready to counter throw, increase the pressure. How are you coaching your kids to get to where we're safe, but also not getting that flee in the hold call?
Okay, for me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, 2 things. Is one, again, we talked about that pressuring. So I think if we don't want to be in those situations, teaching our athletes, okay, she's going to pressure back in me, right? So now I can bring it back to center if I really want to keep using that tie and that attack. And I think that's one thing that we rush a lot is we're in here and we're pushing. Okay, this is a moment. What do you want to do here? Do you want to execute in the zone? Or, okay, I'm going to give her a little bit of pressure and now I'm going to, right? So I think it's a little bit of feeling those positions and those conversations and saying, okay, if this is the beginning of the zone and this is the out of bounds, okay, what decisions am I making here? Or what reaction is my athlete giving me? And, I would say it doesn't hurt to come back to center. I think that's a big piece. My point is we're so afraid of the zone that we're not even putting our people there and looking to score. I don't know if that answers part of your question.
It kind of does, but to put in layman's terms, in other words, start teaching our athletes how to think about the zone switch. So
Yeah.
everyone else is coaching, you're in the zone, get the step out, give them that initial read, they start to counter, pull into your drag, whatever, don't worry about the step out. Use the threat of the step out.
Yeah. That is a big piece. And that's why I talked about in the beginning, like, what are we doing with it? Is it an angle or is it pressure? And that we're just creating a reaction. I'm not necessarily trying to go get zone points, but what I am doing is causing her to react to me. And that's why, like, again, even when we did those lateral drills, I want the athlete to see, okay, my head position alone caused a reaction. So what's available here? My pressure, my tie. Okay, I know now people are going to panic once they're here. I can hit my drag. I can hit a carry. I can hit those counter attacks. And then last is our shot selection. Okay, this is another one. Oh, it kills me. So yeah. And again, maybe our opponent talked us into leaving the center and they're getting us into the zone, right? And we're in here. Okay, I'm probably not going to shoot a low attack. And again, if we're talking about, let's say this is out of bounds. I don't want to do all that work, get baited here, just a little bit what we talked about, right? And now, okay, and now we're in a little bit in the hot seat. We've just completely changed position. I think true for high C too. I don't really like, we're so close to that out of bounds. We did all this work. We're here. My partner's baiting me. Now I'm in bad position and I'm close to the out of bounds. Okay, so shot selection, and this maybe is more preference, but for me, we're gonna do high attacks. We're not doing anything really down to our knees. Again, not a low single, not a high C, but I'm looking maybe more like just this, right? Reach. Again, not the center of the mat, but I'm so close to scoring here. All I need to do is drop, get a handle, and I've got my one. So high attacks in the zone. Again, I'm pushing, I'm pulling, they're circling. My double. And again, not from these ties, not from here, reaching exactly. Okay, so it starts with their tie selection. I'm pressuring, boom, now here she's got no handle. Really try to jack this up. Doesn't matter. My hips are squaring off. When my hips start to turn, that's when I'm in trouble. When our hips start to become in alignment, I want to be cutting her off, squaring off in front of her. Again, let's go, can go high C on my feet. But I'm doing the work with my hips and really moving those feet, again, right on that out of bounds. And then from there, right, then we can work on those finishes. But I've taken away her handles, I've taken away those counters, and just being aware of not putting myself in the zone. You got anything for that?
I mean, like, everybody loves to throw from the zone.
Yeah.
Like, they might only get one out of it, but like, I guarantee you, just being short and doing ties. Same thing with the Greco positions that they should shortening it out.
Yeah. So perfect if you guys talked about those positions yesterday. And again, shortening them to pressure, to get a reaction, to get those step outs. And then,
One of those center, just because of that threat of the throw.
what was that?
Last double, specifically center or in the zone?
Oh, I would say either. Blast, double from the center. From there, again, I'm, was that?
Elbows in.
Yeah, I'm not, but even, and my head, I think that's another point, is like, I'm not getting deep in on her legs. This is not what's happening. Right, I'm gonna get chest locked here. Okay, this is more, again, comes back to that head position. Here, in the collarbone, here, right? If she really starts to square up, but I'm stepping in, more of that head in the center. I would definitely not say, ending up here. This is not where I wanna be.
Yes, I think that's probably a byproduct of American football, that head placement.
Yeah, no kidding. Cool, so last, oh yeah, I'm sorry guys.
For like, we're teaching this to newer athletes. Are there any like verbal commands that you're giving your athletes when they're in that position to like kind of re-emphasize, hey, maybe shorten up?
Yeah, so short choppy steps, or patient here, or shorten the ties, or short ties, or I say short hooks, or whatever positions they're in. So you want to emphasize, right, the short, choppier steps, being patient. And again, it's some cue. So they're like, oh, I'm like in the zone now, and this strategy has to change. And so, I think there can be a lot of different cues, but those are some where I'm like, hey, short hook, short hands, stocking pressure, light pressure. I'll say light pressure because I don't want to. I'll say light pressure, short, patient, and those re-emphasize, again, starting off slow, and can you put them in quick situations to slow down, right? And that's a big piece of that. Last, we'll go end of match strategies. This is a really big one that affects all levels, all genders, is how do we shut down the match? How do we seal the deal? We're up by 1, we're up by 2, it's a close match. And I just wanted to show some examples of recent situations and then a couple situations. Sorry. So first, this one I'm not going to show, but US Open, was it last year? You may correct me. Diamond and Adeline. Was that last year? 2 years ago. Yeah, the years are blurring together. That was a situation where Diamond was up and she backed out. I don't remember what the lead was, but it was a pretty significant lead. Oh my God, yeah, okay. Yeah, Geneva can tell you every moment of that match. And again, and this is more of, we just talked about like fleeing the hold, backing out, evasive wrestling. Okay, backed out 3 times. She got a caution every time and lost the match. So like, I would say very first as a coach, it was like, who should have maybe talked to her about that in general, that rule? Do our athletes even know that's a rule? And that actually happened to a Greco athlete a few years before that, senior Greco. I can't remember the match, but again, disqualified for 3 cautions. And so maybe talking through like, okay, 3 cautions can look like anything. Doesn't matter what the violation is, but 3 cautions means you've lost the match. And that was such a huge match, it was a semis match, to go into Final X. And it was a really simple mistake. And I think that, again, as a coach, our staff was like, who should have maybe had that conversation? We assume our athletes know, but that was a really, I think, unfortunately, a hard lesson learned. And on the other end of it, as a veteran, I think Adeline did a really great job of utilizing that. So again, knowing the rules on both sides is so important. So let's start with, knowing what those illegal holds are.
Did you say the single pull? Yeah, that was another really good example of knowing the rules tactically
I'm gonna go to.
Whether we like it or our opinions on that, it's the athlete's job to know the rules, to be able to make tactical decisions in a match. The coach cannot always be able to do that from the
Theo now before the bottle.
Whoops, sorry.
Which is why teaching for us as coaches to know the rules better, it's not from a coaching perspective, but the officiating perspective. And then being able to teach that to our kids. That is a way a kid can actually take better command of their matches. I know it's really hard. We all think we know the rules, but the more I spend time around officials and look at the rules through their lens, I'm like, maybe I don't know the rules so well.
Yeah, thank you. And Rusty, you're in here. If you have any comments, please feel free to comment on those things. Okay, so this was the most recent ranking event in Albania. And I hate to put Diamond on the spot, but again, and this did go our way. So that's why I think this is a really, this was a good match to watch because a few things happened here that were kind of confusing from, I would say, a spectator standpoint. So right now there's 10 seconds left on the match. We'll back it up, sorry. 20, let's go 16. Okay, 16. So one more time. So shot clock. Red's awarded 1, 20 seconds left. Challenge requested by blue.
Challenge and
Whoa, we could put down. Thoughts, or if you've seen this match, maybe not say anything, what the outcome or what you think happened here? Or what maybe things that you saw?
I'm thinking potential playing the whole step out.
Step out, yeah, step out blue.
At the very least, the step out. If not, the fleeing 1, step out 1 blue. So it'd be 3, 2 blue.
Yeah, good thoughts there. So a couple things happened in this match. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a hair pull here by right here. Whistle was blown here. And Rusty, if you want to add anything, where are you? Is he gone?
Just left.
Oh. Oh, hey, you. So here, hair pull. Also, right, evading position, taking steps back here, but then the whistle is blown. So, outcome ended up being, watch this. So challenge, and this was really confusing to watch from home.
Was this a red challenge or blue?
Blue. Blue challenged for that step out.
This is the fun one.
Step out after the whistle.
Yeah, or at least for fleeing, at the very least. Okay, so right here, challenge 1, if you can see that on the bottom left, but no points awarded. So what ended up happening was caution blue, or attention blue, for the hair pull, and attention to red for fleeing the hold. So no points were awarded. The challenge was won, and the match ended 2-1.
What were they hoping to gain out of that on the challenge?
Yeah, so if this is a rule, and I'm going to show a match that went the completely opposite way. In the bout, if there's less than 30 seconds left, you can challenge fleeing the hold. So to get the refs to give attention. On the other end of it, if all 3 refs decide unanimously they want to give a caution and 1, they don't even have to give an attention to the wrestler. So if they wanted, potentially, they could have put red and said caution and 1 with no attention. So at that point, if it determines the match, then the other corner can challenge that. But you have to do it before the match ends.
So to put it in like step by step.
Yeah.
It was challenge blue for the fleeing the hole potentially. So they won that, but then because of the review, they saw the offensive foul for blue, so that would be the attention, no score, attention red.
Exactly.
Attention blue.
Yeah.
Attention red
For fleeing. Exactly. If they really wanted to and all 3 decided, they could have went caution and 1.
Yeah. This is that example where they made the challenge and it actually backfired. So if they hadn't done anything, it would have been step out?
But the whistle was blown, so there was no step out.
Let's say like no challenge.
Yeah.
How the action ended, it could have been like 2 for them, but it actually backfired and lost them the match.
Yeah, I mean, and I think honestly they weren't going to award the points anyway since the whistle was blown. But I do think if you want to challenge, let's say they didn't give any attention, you could challenge, say, fleeing, right, and at least get that attention from the official. So yeah, I think the challenge overall wasn't. Yeah, and I think what was hard for the Mongolian official or the Mongolian coach, he didn't speak English, so they were explaining what happened. So he was really confused in the corner. So yeah, it was just not a good scenario. It did, but all that to say, I would say the end of the match is where we have won and lost a lot of matches, and this one is near and dear to my heart because this was 2 years ago at U20 Worlds in the semis. Our 59 kilo Lexi Janiak. This was also the trip of death in Amman, where everyone got sick. It was just not fun. Okay. Okay, so the score was 8-4. This might help if I close some of these guys. We won't go over the other ones. Okay. I'm going to go even further. So this is the semifinals at the U20 World Championships. Actually, we'll just keep going. So in the second period, Janiak was up 8-4. And this all happened within the last 30 seconds of the match. So Blue got a takedown, and now the score is 8-6. So 16 seconds left on the clock. She got another takedown. So she gave up 2 takedowns within the last 25 seconds of the match. 5 seconds left. She's winning by criteria. Yeah. So I would say a few things is lateral motion's really important. How many steps we take back, right? 2, 3, 4 steps. Now we're evading wrestling. Now the officials got eyes on us. So technically, this match was won. No attention had been given. Referees hadn't put any caution or point. And so Blue actually challenged this. They challenged fleeing the hole, and we lost that match 8-9. So it was a heartbreaker. We ended up, and you guys may have seen this, but it was a mistake on the officiating side that nothing could have been done. But the rule here is no challenge can be requested for penalties given as a result of passive wrestling or a fall, being understood that the fall must be confirmed to the decision of either judge, and then on the other hand, challenge requests for illegal attacks, right, or counters, attacks, action just between the last seconds and the end of time before the fall. So we talked about a singlet pull, right? That's where that may have happened. I think we saw that at trials, Olympic trials with the singlet pull. When less than 30 seconds remain in a bout, the refereeing body agrees unanimously that one of the wrestlers is passive. They may issue 1 caution at fault for fleeing the hold and 1 to the opponent. Should this determine the match, you may request a challenge. And this is where that challenge should have never happened. No challenge can be requested at the end of a regular time of period except when the points are added to the scoreboard after the ref's whistle. The coach has 10 seconds to request a challenge after the points are published. So all that to say, and not end on this note, is that challenge shouldn't even have been accepted by the officials. A challenge can't happen after the match. If a point was thrown up, if a point had been thrown up, that would have been different to challenge that. but no attention was given, no points. And so really, I say all that because at the end of the day, we've spent a lot of times, right? We worked so hard on our offense, putting points on the board. And then in the last, 3, 2, 1 second, we lost a match, right? And on top of that, it was the official's mistake, and there was nothing we can do about it. And this is the World Championships. So I would say to you, emphasizing, again, I emphasize, we don't want to leave it, right, in the official's hands, and we don't want to leave it. We need to wrestle the entire time. So what does that look like? We need to make contact. We need to be, right, still making contact with our ties, but what ties are we in? We talked about picking the correct ties. Are we passing? Are we moving? Are we down blocking? And it comes back to even that first positions we talked about. We're low on the wrist. We're not deep in our underhooks, our over-unders. We're starting low. We're moving our opponent. We're controlling center. So kind of putting all those pieces together, we talked about from the very beginning, like first contact. This is also strategy for end of the match and positioning. So I'll stop there because I believe I'm way over time. Yeah. So EA, anyway, that is all I have. I know. Where's Katie? She's out.